Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Steel News Podcast. I'm Brennan McGrevy here with the Steel News alongside Jay with Steelersloyalty. Jay, this offseason has been a crazy one for Pittsburgh. Some of the most noise we've heard in a long time. Tell us your thoughts about the moves we've made so far.
Yeah, I think at first I was a little shocked because Kenny Pickett, the trade came as a bit of a surprise, I think, because you would think that they were planning to give him an extra third or fourth year. But I think Omar Khan, it seems like he's trying to build a culture, and it's if you don't want to be here, then we're going to send you somewhere else. And he wants people that fit that culture. So Russell Wilson and then Justin Fields, I think it was also a surprise that we were able to trade only a six rounder to get him.
Yeah, I mean it was awesome to see. We had a quarterback room that was one of the weakest in the league, but now it's one of the strongest. I mean, we have Justin Fields as a backup is insane. He's like one of the best backups in the league, if not the best. And we got to talk about that Patrick Queen signing. I mean, this defense is even more dangerous now. I think it'll help with the run, but what do you expect the Steelers defense to look like this year? You think it'll be even better? Like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think it will be better. Patrick Queen is really good, and I think it's not only really good that you get a great linebacker, but you're also taking him away from a division rival. So the Ravens are losing out on him. But yeah, I'm expecting good things from the defense. They really need they rely on a good inside linebacker, and I feel like they've just had really bad luck. Last year you had Quan Alexander get hurt, Cole Holcomb got hurt. He was on pace to get like well over 100 tackles. So, but I think they're gonna find some stability now there with Patrick Queen.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about stability. The injury bug did hurt the Steelers quite a bit last season, especially losing TJ Watt. But now having more guys in the lineup for depth is always a great thing. And I think it was interesting to see the Steelers made a few moves to get some wide receiver depth. They got Van Jefferson, and they also got a guy from the Eagles. I forget his name. It's like Quez Watkins, I
Yeah,
believe.
Quez Watkins.
And I mean, they're just for more depth pieces. But I wonder, will the Steelers look at the draft later in the draft to get a receiver? Because right now, I mean, we have Calvin Austin and of course George Pickens, but losing Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers for Dante Jackson, I mean, that's great. We got another corner, but I mean, how do you feel about Deontay Johnson going to Carolina?
Yeah, that was another one. I was a little surprised. But he did have only 1 year left on his contract. But I guess Mike Tomlin said it was just because they wanted to do the player for player swap and get Dante Jackson, the cornerback. Which, when I look at it, I also think part of the reason might be because of the way the draft is set up and it's pretty deep at wide receiver. So maybe they just want a new receiver there, and then he's not on a 1 year contract. You have the full 4 years for a rookie.
Yeah, and I think too the wide receiver position is so deep in the league. You can draft a guy. There's tons of vets that might be cheaper than Deontay Johnson that can, get the job done. And I think George Pickens will definitely be better than Deontay Johnson. If not, he's already shown us some flashes of greatness. And I mean, having Russell Wilson, I was surprised. The Broncos are going to be paying him tons and tons of money, like somewhere in the 30 millions, I think, this season. And we're only paying him like 1.2 mil or something like that. So I think it was awesome to see the Steelers sign Wilson instead of someone like Kirk Cousins, because that would have been a way bigger risk for the Steelers. But I feel like Russ can do some great things, and I think the Broncos definitely did him dirty. And I think here in Pittsburgh, the fans will love him. He'll definitely shine. I mean, he has two great running backs and Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. We just got to beef up that line. And you know, talking about, I guess, the line, do you think the Steelers should draft, or who should they draft in the first round, I guess I should say?
Yeah, my guess right now would be a center because that's just the most obvious glaring hole right now by far. There's literally no one there. So yeah, and there's some round one talent I think that you can get, but you never know how the draft board's going to fall. But right now, I have them taking a center.
Yeah, and I think, it's interesting too. You talk about centers, Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, a really, really good center. But I see some mock drafts and people have Pittsburgh possibly taking J.C. Latham from Alabama, an offensive tackle, which I think would be interesting to see if they try to get another young tackle to go with Broderick Jones, who was a rookie last year. But I think you're right. First round, Steelers got to take a center because they didn't sign anybody really in the free agency for center. But again, as well, I mean, we have Corey Trice coming back off of an injury. He didn't even get to play at all last year, um, but as a cornerback. But I think, center will definitely be something that the Steelers need to draft, but as well as address the offensive tackle position. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a competitive AFC North. Like before, I mean, every year I feel like people have been saying, "Oh, the Steelers are going to get last. They're not going to have a winning record." And Mike Tomlin gets
Mhm.
it done with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and I mean, I was kind of sad to see Mason go, but I really hope he can make some noise in Tennessee. I know they have Will Levis, who will probably be the starter, but Rudolph could definitely start somewhere. I feel like he has such a good deep ball, and his pocket presence is awesome. How do you feel about him going away from Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty obvious after they signed Russell Wilson because even though they traded away Pickett, I mean, there was no way he came back just to be the quarterback three at that point. So, yeah, I mean, I wish him the best. I mean, I don't know if the Steelers did him dirty or not, but they uh, they gave a lot of the money to Trubisky, I think, when maybe it was Rudolph who deserved to be the backup. But yeah, I hope he does well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting too to see Mitch go right back to Buffalo. Like, he was in Chicago, then Buffalo, then he went to Pittsburgh, and then back to Buffalo. I mean, I know Mason, he wants to be a starter, and I think he can be one of the best backups in the league without a doubt. But he definitely could start in some places. Like, there's definitely some teams who could use him. But it's awesome to see how, the con artist has got stuff done this offseason. I mean, he's been with the Steelers organization for a long time, with Kevin Colbert stepping down about the same time when Ben retired. So people were worried, are the Steelers going to be, still a contender team? Are they going to be on like the fringe of the playoffs? But now I think, you look at the Steelers team, and even before the draft, they could win the AFC North. And I mean, there's Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, who are always hard to get through in the Bengals and Baltimore Ravens. But I see the Browns honestly getting last this year, considering their team. I mean, they have a good defense, but I think the Steelers just have gotten better. Their defense is phenomenal, and if they can win games with Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky in at QB. Imagine what they could do with a quarterback like Russell Wilson or someone like Justin Fields who can make magic happen. They're both fast guys that can run, and I think I mean, it hasn't been too long. We were lucky with Big Ben for so long, but I think Steelers fans were starting to get annoyed with Kenny Pickett, and it was kind of
Mhm.
interesting to see people defend him in the offseason. I mean, when he got traded, I was like surprised, but then more stuff came out that Pickett apparently had bad ties and didn't even want to dress for one of the games behind Mason. It was a whole ordeal or something. But I guess, what do you think about Kenny Pickett? Are you still a fan? Are you not as high on him for how he left Pittsburgh? Or
Yeah, I don't know. It was a little disappointing to see the way things ended. I mean, he kind of just ran away from the competition, but like I said, I think Omar Khan, he's trying to build that culture of people who think the same and want to win. So, I mean, if that's at the time I thought maybe they could have just sat down and like had a conversation, but maybe that's just the way things were headed. I don't know. It's hard to know what's going on behind closed doors. But yeah.
yeah, I think it's tough too because people wanted Kenny to succeed. He played in Pittsburgh for college, and he only really had one good year for the Pittsburgh Panthers, and people were kind of skeptical on him coming in and being the guy. I mean, it's hard. Obviously, there was Matt Canada for a while who was a problem, and then he was showing flashes of being decent. And then he got hurt, and then he kind of lost his job as a starter for being hurt. And I know people aren't a fan of that, but Mason came in and he was a winner. I mean, I know they lost to the Bills in the playoffs, but he gave them a chance to come back. I mean, that's all you can ask for him. But so if we take a look here, switching topics, going to the draft, I guess, going back to the draft. So if the Steelers take a center round one, which we both think will probably happen, who do you see what position do you see them taking in the second or third round?
I'm definitely thinking that they'll take a wide receiver at some point there. Because yeah, I mean it's a position of need now. I think that Deontay Johnson's gone, and I think they did it so now they're looking at wide receiver instead of cornerback in those rounds. And
Yeah.
I think that might be good since I think it's a little bit of a deeper wide receiver class.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great talent. I mean, you have Marvin Harrison Jr., who's probably going to be one of the best players in this draft, if not the best player in this draft. And you have been seeing stuff about Keon Coleman from I believe it was Florida State, really good player. But I haven't done too much research into how deep the wide receiver position is in the draft. But I'm interested to see what the Steelers will do. I mean, like a center would be good, a wide receiver as well. I wonder if they'll take a corner as another corner or something high up, because I feel like it wouldn't hurt to have another one. But I think, at least for my position, like the top 4 rounds should be like a center, an offensive tackle, a corner, and probably a wide receiver. I don't know if you're thinking the same thing, because I haven't been too impressed with Dan Moore by any means. But yeah, I mean, would you want to see the Steelers take an offensive tackle high up, or because Dan Moore isn't getting it done for me?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see offensive tackle at some point, I think. And also sliding Broderick Jones back over to left tackle, I think would also be good. So he's protecting the blind side. But yeah, I mean, when I was going through the mocks in round one, I'm just like, an offensive tackle would be good, but I mean, there's just much more of a glaring hole at center right now, which I think makes it a little bit of a higher priority.
Yeah, I think center was a big problem too. There was a few times Mason Cole would just have bad snaps, and that would cause a fumble, and that's game changing. So I think center is definitely the biggest hole. But Dan Moore has had a hard time, and I mean we didn't lose Chucks. We let Chucks go, and he went to the I think it was the Patriots is where he
Mhm.
signed Chuck Okorafor. But yeah, the Steelers have really struggled with offensive linemen recently, even through the draft. I mean, Kendrick Green didn't work out, and he left. It was Dan Moore just hasn't been doing it. It feels like the Steelers have a hard time drafting offensive linemen and corners until they got Joey Porter Jr., who is a stud and one of the best in the league. But I'm sure you remember Artie Burns back in the day. I think it was
Yeah.
a first round pick a while ago. I can't remember what year it was they drafted him, but it was a long time ago, and he's probably one of the biggest busts I think we've had in a long time. But that's why I think it's important the Steelers don't reach, like, yes, if their biggest need is center, they should go for it, but they shouldn't reach for somebody who would fall in the second or third. Um, but yeah, and I guess switching topics again here, going to the AFC North. Do you have any predictions for placements, like where all 4 teams will fall in perspective of the division?
Um, hmm. I agree with you. Browns last, just because I mean it's very competitive. So the other three I think will be at the top. I haven't really thought about it yet, but I'm
It's
gonna say
tough.
that. Yeah, I'm gonna put the Steelers at the top. I have them winning it. Ravens second, Bengals third,
I
Browns
like that.
last.
I think the Bengals get third, but I think it's close. I think the injury bug will come and bite them. I think, yeah, and I think either the Ravens or the Steelers, but I think that Steelers defense, if because then now they'll have a quarterback who can do stuff. Because that defense is really good against Lamar, especially T.J. Watt. Lamar plays awful against Pittsburgh, and we are 7-1 against them in our last 8 games, I believe. So I have big faith in the Steelers winning the AFC North. It would be awesome. Be cool to get a shirt, AFC North champions.
Mhm.
It's been a minute, but it's the best division in football for a reason. Iron sharpens iron. I love it. I'm glad we're not in a division that's really weak, because it's good to see you play up to a competition, because we play 6 games, against them. So it's good to have, to see where we're at and measure against good teams like the Browns, Ravens, and Bengals. But yeah, it's been really it's crazy this offseason, what's happened. The Bengals, I mean, they were having a hard time with trying to keep some of their players, because Joe Burrow's been taking a lot of money, and they're not going to be contenders as much. I mean, T. Higgins, they had the franchise tag him, and then he requested a trade and all that, and it just, didn't. I mean, he's a great player. He could probably be a wide receiver one on a bunch of other teams. And I think it's important for the Steelers to save money. And the con artist is smart. Only paying our quarterback 1.2 mil is insane, and he's happy too. He's getting
Mhm.
money from the Broncos, so
Yeah.
it's sweet. And I think this offseason has been one of the best in a long, long time in Pittsburgh. But do you have any high hope, or I guess, what do you think of Cordell Patterson signing?
I like that. I mean, it was interesting. It was the day right after the new rule was announced for kickoff. So, yeah, I think having just a veteran guy there is going to help, and he's explosive too. It looks like.
Yeah, I mean, he's one. I think he has the most kick return touchdowns in NFL history with 9, if I'm not mistaken. And the Steelers were the ones that proposed that rule change as well. So I think it was interesting to see how they jumped on and signed him to a 2-year, $6 million deal. But yeah, it was also interesting to see. Now teams have to say when they're going to do an onside kick. I mean, I think that's
Hmm.
pretty lame. I like the element of surprise because it was already hard to pull off. I think there was only like 2 or 3 successful kicks last year that were onside. But now if you tell people you're doing it, I feel like maybe 1 or 2 at most now. I mean, how do you feel about that rule change?
Yeah, the chances of getting an onside kick have become so low now that they talked about doing the play where it's just a you do a 4th and 20 instead of an onside kick, and I think they might be headed in that direction soon, because I mean the onside kicks have just become so unlikely, and I wasn't really for that originally doing the 4th and 20, but now I might be just because the onside kicks are dying now.
Yeah, and it sucks too because the like a successful onside kick is, awesome. It's hype and they're really rare, but now having to tell people what you're going to do just I don't know, kind of it rubs me the wrong way. I like the element of surprise cuz now I feel like we're probably not even going to see any, maybe one this year, if that, but there's been a lot of interesting rule changes too, like the hip drop tackle, I believe. How do you feel about that rule change? I mean, JJ Watt expressed we should play flag football now if we're getting rid of defense, because now it's just I feel like it's way too heavy in favor of the offense. I mean, where are you sitting in that aspect?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's a big penalty too, like 15 yards, automatic first down, like a personal foul. Which no, I don't really like it too, because I would think that the priority would be to like protect the head or the neck area of the players, and that I'm all for. I understand why they would do that, but I feel like just other injuries are just a part of the game, and I don't know. It just makes it harder for the defenders now when you don't really have. It doesn't really have to be.
Yeah, and I think a clip that sums it up the best is Mike Mitchell. I think he was a former Steelers safety, was talking in a press conference, and he was saying, "What do I have to do now? Because now you try to be careful not tackling someone a certain way, and then you can risk injuries. Doing that, like he was mentioning in a video before. So I think it kind of sucks that they're trying to make defense harder to play because you can't put weight on the quarterback. You can't, do that hip drop tackle thing. You can't like they really soft with roughing the passer calls. I mean, they want to keep their players healthy, and I'm all for player safety, but if you make if you make rules kind of confusing and take away some aspects of the game that make it physical and fun, like this league, players get paid millions, and their injuries are going to happen. It's an aggressive sport, so I think defense definitely shouldn't be penalized for big plays like that. I think they should invest in better helmets and maybe better shoulder pads, better padding and stuff, rather than punishing the players for plays. But yeah, when that rule got brought up, I think I saw a clip. It was of Tony Pollard from the Dallas Cowboys, who's on another team now, and he got hurt from I think that drop tackle that was mentioned before. So I think that might have had something to do with it, and other players as well. But I think if they were worried about player safety, maybe they should stop with the turf fields and go back to real grass. Because I think
Hmm.
that's a case. I don't know if you agree with that, or what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the players have been saying that, so I mean, I think it is safer, so I don't know why they wouldn't just do something like that instead of adding rules to make it harder for the defenders.
Yeah, it's just so many rules now. It's confusing. It
Hmm.
doesn't feel like defense is defense anymore. It just feels like it's just trying to keep the offense. Like, how long can you keep your defense on the field to stop them from scoring a touchdown? Because now it feels like it's gonna be like higher scoring games, which is cool. But I kind of like the defensive games. That's how the Steelers win football: hard running and good defense. But that'll be interesting to see. But all right, so Jay, I want to end the video today with what's your record prediction for the Steelers this season? A lot of talent was added, and the schedule is out, but the dates aren't finalized yet, and the times aren't, but the opponents are. What do you got the Steelers going?
Hmm. Thinking 11 or 12 wins. I'm gonna say, since I had them winning the AFC North, though, I think I got to say 12 to get to the top of the division, and then I'm also gonna predict they get a playoff win, so they'll have a home playoff game and get a win.
I like that. I got the Steelers 11 or 12 wins. I think they get above 10 because if they can win 10 games with you know, Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky and Mason Rudolph, they definitely can win 12 with Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. So I got them winning 12, and I agree. I think they can. I think they can win 2 playoff games even if they play at their full potential. I think the Chiefs will always be a hard team to beat, and I mean the Bills are still a good team, and even the Texans too. I like the Texans. They're pretty hyped to watch. C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryan's the head coach. They're a great team, but I like it. But all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning into this podcast. It's been Brennan here with the Steel News and Jay with Steelers Loyalty. I'll try to post some more stuff, guys, weekly. It's been a busy schedule with college and stuff, but take care, everybody, and thanks for tuning in.